It just,
I mean,
plastics are everywhere.
yeah, and
Everywhere. It's
and
just,
we ingesting it, and someone basically said, yeah, we're ingesting the equivalent of a credit card per week. Just
what? Oh
yeah.
my God.
And so, and some people more susceptible to this than others, but it does mess with the endocrine system. And of course, the thyroid is an endocrine gland. It regulates metabolism. So it screws up metabolic rate. It basically slows down the metabolic rate. You still have to eat because you still get hungry. But because the metabolic rate is slowed down, you're not burning off the energy. You start storing it as fat. Yeah.
Plastic.
Yeah,
It's
because
amazing. Well, in your video, it was like plastic is basically everywhere. We're ingesting it, even like the micro nano level. It's amazing, like those pictures. It was just kind of like
I thought it
alarming
was really
too.
cool, and I wanted to include those photos, of inside the vascular system of plant, and go, yeah, see the little particle here? That's plastic, and it's been incorporated into the plant. We eat those plants, we then get it into our system.
So, I mean, that's just so alarming because you think like vegetables would be good for you, but really plastic is everywhere.
Yeah,
And I know like the beginning of it was like seabirds were like eating it, and then like when their bodies decompose, what's left is in their stomachs a bunch of plastic that didn't
well,
decompose.
I did that video some time ago. It was like a two-parter where the second part was um,
Yeah.
a video showing you can think it was a gull or an albatross or something like that.
Yeah,
Where
those things.
as it rotted out, there's all this plastic stuff that came out in his gut, including fishing lines and other things. And then part of that other video, I actually showed larval fish, actually ingesting plastic because it's a larval fish, a little thing like that. They see a food speck, they think it's plankton. It's not, it's plastic, and they're just sucking it down.
So plastic is throughout the ecosystem, just in every
From
ecosystem.
the Arctic Ocean to the Mariana Trench, there's plastic.
And I remember the graph on your video, just the production of plastic again is another accelerated graph. And then just to me in my bracket, that's why I switched that email because I was thinking, the people that it kind of coincides with the population increase as well. It's just like the
That's a very good
plastic.
point. Uh,
Okay,
uh,
that's what I was thinking.
yeah, that's a very good point. But yeah, again, you see the exponentiation of it.
And that, yeah, it takes like 400 years for some of this stuff to decompose. I don't
And
even
don't
know.
forget, you got things like the
Something like
Great
that.
Pacific. You got things like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is basically the size of Texas, France, that kind of stuff. I mean, this is a big, huge pile of trash out in the ocean. And because you have the oceanic gyres or convergence zones in the middle, it's just converging all that plastic into the middle there.
And it's not going anywhere.
Nope.
Well, some plastic and garbage, garbage in general, just ends up on like beaches far, far away from where they started. I mean, the lifestyle is not sustainable, I think, was another issue. Just what we're
No, it's
doing
not.
in like less than 100 years to the planet. Like, I don't understand. I mean, we've had this conversation and I love talking about it because, the future, but it's just what, I mean, it's just interesting, like how, we have destroyed the planet and we keep destroying it like as much as we can without thinking there'd be any consequences.
No, well, there are going to be consequences, and the consequence will be
Mm-hmm.
human extinction. To be to be quite blunt about it.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, there are some ecologists who basically opine that an increase of 4C will be sufficient to cause human extinction. Now, we've discussed before how, look in that video did, lessons from the early Eocene, how there's some models saying 7 to 9 C, maybe 10 or 11 by 2100. And then last week we discussed how, when we look at warming temperatures, that plants, trees, what have you, may actually switch from photosynthesizing to respiration. So that means they're going to burn up their own energy supply because that means they're stressed out. But also, that means what? Instead of drawing down CO2, it's going to draw down oxygen and put CO2 into the atmosphere. And then as the oceans really warm up and start, because they reach solubility maximum, then they start outgassing the CO2. Well, you're going to be in for one hell of a ride.
And then the methane issue. I mean, just everything is outgassing. The deforestation issue with the Amazon. We are aware of these issues, yet we know there's a lot of greed and corporation issues. But just what it all means for our species, like you said, it's like we're in the sixth mass extinction. Plus, every other species alive is at risk of whatever is going to change and how that affects them.
We're on pace. This, from looking at the extinction rates and reading what people who this is their expertise are evaluating, how they evaluate it. According to them, we are on pace to a Permian type extinction. Where you
Writing that
basically
down. Permian type extinction.
where I did a two-part series on that way back when, but
Okay, so yeah, check that out.
basically where 95% of all species snuffed it. And when you look at what's
Wow.
happening with the oceans, if you get stratification of the ocean that's permanent without mixing of nutrients into the upper layers, into the photic zone, oh God, that's just going to collapse. Basically, the only working ecosystem in the oceans that you'll have is at the hydrothermal vents.
The very, very bottom.
Yeah, they're at the
Yeah.
bottom. They're based on chemosynthesis. So it's no photosynthesis. No light energy is required, just chemical energy. That's to get to like the tube worms and those kind of
Yeah,
things.
like the little
Yeah.
there's like white crabs. I've seen like a
Yeah.
Animal Planet, I think, on it. But yeah. But just what you
Do
said.
a search on Juan de Fuca ridge, the Juan de Fuca plate
Okay.
and the Juan de Fuca hot vents.
And this is the Mariana Trench, which is filled with plastic.
Yeah. Basically, you got the deep, the hydrothermal vents right off the west coast there in the Pacific. Juan de Fuca is like off BC and Washington State in that region, Vancouver Island, off that way. Okay,
Wow.
if the conveyor belt slows down, you don't get that upwelling at the Antarctic divergence zone, and that
Jeez, man.
upwelling brings those nutrients that basically that the phytos need, which is what runs the Southern Ocean. Why you have the baleen whales and all the krill because of all that upwelling. You shut
Mm.
down the conveyor belt, that upwelling shuts down, that ecosystem shuts down.
So what are the signs that like the ecosystem, well, I mean there's so many, but what are some of the signs that obviously we're going towards this permanent okay, no, I messed up. Permian extinction type event. Like what are some of the signs? What do you know about it? Just what the researchers are talking about? It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's mind
Well,
blowing. It's
you've got
wild.
the increasing temperatures, and
Okay.
some are now saying 5 to 10 C by 2050. But I haven't seen modeling to back that up. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I see rigorous modeling that's been peer reviewed, that kind of stuff. Still, 10 C by 2100 is still alarming enough because it's still a very fast rate.
It is.
You've got the methane time bomb is going off right now. It is going off. Natalia and Igor have been warning us of this. It's going off. Then now the estimate is 15 gigatons of methane in the East Siberian shelf alone.
Okay. I mean,
And
this
now
is tremendous.
I saw an article that when you have bottom trawlers, the big fishing thing, and they just run the trawlers and they scrape up along the bottom there. Well, the action of scraping the sediments to scoop up anything and everything down there is releasing carbon.
What? That's
Any
wild.
carbon that got sequestered into the substrate is now being scooped up and released and that sort of stuff.
So we're on borrowed time. I
Oh
mean, that's
gosh,
how I
yes.
feel.
Oh, it is. So, what are some of the signs? Okay, we got the increase in CO2 levels. We're starting to measure a decrease in atmospheric oxygen.
Right.
You've got the methane. You've got the issues with the ocean, right? With the stratification to slow down, the permafrost thawing. I mean, we're seeing a decrease in productivity. If the final was, I've already mentioned decrease in oxygen levels. We've got the increasing acidification of the ocean, increasing heat content of the ocean. My next video I got to put together,
Nice.
and there's just so many things out there,
There are.
and with increasing temperatures, okay, the plant yields are decreasing because it's getting too warm for the plants that humans depend on, and they as a result, the nutritional value of the plants are decreasing as well. That issue, you have rising sea levels. Okay, as we discussed before, it isn't just the coastlines that you see the tides coming up, whatever. It's any like major river drainage system, that the water is just going to flood right into there. So now you're going to have brackish water in your ground table, in your water table, and plants that need fresh water, brackish water is going to kill them. So you're going to lose those croplands, not to mention creating climate refugees. And
Which you could
so you,
argue is already happening, yeah.
you're already happening, exactly.
But it's
So
gonna
now
get
you've got
worse.
all these people with even fewer land to put them.
And our favorite topic, the human population issue. And just, with all that, we're supposedly supposed to get 2 more billion people by mid-century. I mean, with less land, I mean, all these issues and like just what feeding your stomach is and feeding everyone is, inequality. I mean, it's just it the
Not
21st
to,
century.
not to mention the increased energy demands that more and more people require.
Oh, good point. And just like housing in general, I saw an article, barely just skimmed it, just like the idea of like a housing crisis and how we'd have to build like millions of more homes. And I know just the idea of taking more resources and just all these things, it seems like it's just obviously simply stated as a disaster coming, if not at
It's
right
not
now.
sustainable. I've been
Right.
arguing this for quite some time. I mean, just like, now people now paying attention to like, uh, ooh, the Gulf Stream is slowing down. Ooh, deep water formation is slowing down. This isn't good for the planet. I've been yelling about this since the mid 2000s. I've been saying this for some time ago. This is coming down the pipe.
Yo,
People got to
you're
pay
way ahead of
attention
your
to
time.
this.
You're way ahead of your time.
You
It's
know,
frustrating.
it is. I mean, it's just I've been talking about this at least 15 years. I mean, it's just nuts. And I still maintain everyone looks at the atmosphere and what the temps and the gas levels are doing. Okay, fine, that's important. What I still say is, if you really want to get a handle what's going to happen to the planet, you got to look at the oceans.
What you said are dying.
Exactly.
Yeah, sad.
Because the ocean and the atmosphere are a couple system. And that's why we use the term fluid dynamics. Fluid is not a physical state. You have gas, liquid, solid, but fluid represents things that move in a fluid manner.